Hi everyone! I'm continuing my series of swatching handmade dot cards with Sennelier Watercolors. Thank you again to Kim for sending these to me. My only experience with Sennelier has been their student grade La Petite line, so I'm pretty pumped to finally be able to try their professional grade paints. This is Phthalo Green Deep, created from the pigments PB15:3, Phthalo Blue, and PG7, Phthalo Green Blue shade. This is a very transparent, moody, cool-toned green with a lot of depth. For comparison, I have Phthalo Turquoise from Daniel Smith, which is several shades bluer, but it has a very similar deepness to the mass tone. They feel almost like alternate universe versions of each other. Cinereous Blue is a mix of PB15:3 and PW4 Zinc White or Chinese White. The addition of a white pigment makes this a very opaque, creamy paint. I don't usually like opaque colors, but this one is really beautiful to paint with, and I love that shade of sky blue. I don't really have any other paints in my collection that are similar to this one, largely because most of my paints are transparent. Lemon Yellow is created from PY3, Airlide Yellow 10G, or Hansa Yellow Light. The pigment is not terribly light fast and is typically only semi-transparent. This paint isn't quite transparent, even though Sennelier calls it transparent, but it's definitely more transparent than most similar cool-toned yellows. My cool yellow collection is fairly lacking. I do have an absolute favorite, which is Lemon Yellow by Daniel Smith, and I do also have Permanent Lemon Yellow by Holbein. I find Sennelier's is cooler than either of these, so much so that it almost looks chartreuse in comparison. Sennelier Yellow Deep is a mix of PY83, De Airlide Yellow HR, and PY153, Nickel Dioxine Yellow. This is a very warm yellow, and it's listed as semi-opaque, but I honestly find it's much closer to semi-transparent. As far as comparisons go, this one is similar to a New Gamboge or Hansa Yellow Deep. Both of these I'm featuring here are by Daniel Smith and were previously swatched in past handmade dot card videos, so if you haven't checked those out, I'll try to link the videos in the info cards, or the whole playlist will be linked down below in the info box. Red Orange is a mix of PO43, Paranone Orange, and PY83. It is even warmer than Sennelier Yellow Deep, almost peachy in the lighter end of the gradient, and it's also much darker. This is another not quite transparent paint, but I still really love this one because I don't really have many light fast oranges in my collection, and I definitely don't have any oranges that are similar to this one, so it's definitely going in my wish list. Sennelier Red is created from PR254 Pyrrole Red. This is the sort of color I like my red lipsticks to be. A bold, almost primary red leaning towards the pink side. This is a not rated paint as far as light fastness goes, though PR254 tends to be a very light fast pigment, so I personally wouldn't be too concerned. It is marked as transparent, and I find it's more semi-transparent, however. I do have Shinhan PwC's Pyrrole Red in my collection, though it is marked as terrible in the light fastness department, and I'm not sure I would trust any paints from Shinhan PwC anyway. And I have also swatched Daniel Smith's Pyrrole Red in another of these handmade dot card videos. Aliz Crimson Lake, yes, that's how it's written, is created from PR83, which is dihydroxyanthraquinone lake. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Alizarin Crimson is not a very light fast color normally, but it is so ridiculously pretty, and it's not really like anything else in my collection. It's almost like a cool toned rusty red, if that makes any sense at all. So we've discussed the paints and compared them to other paints, but how do they compare to the Sennelier Le Petit student line? I will only discuss paints that have obvious dupes in the Le Petit line, so a paint like Aliz Crimson Lake doesn't really have a dupe because there's not really anything else that's similar to it. Phthalo Green Deep doesn't have any great dupes in the Le Petit line, at least as far as the depth and nuance to the color. There is a deep green that is similar in color, and then also a forest green that is also really close. Like, so absurdly close that I had to take my color picker in Photoshop to figure out which one was cooler toned. Cinereous Blue is slightly, but only slightly, similar to Phthalo Turquoise or Cobalt Blue. It's so minuscule that I'm not even sure I should even bother making the comparisons, but here we are anyway. There are two cool toned yellows in the palette, one of which is called Lemon Yellow and shares the same transparency and light fastness rating as the professional grade version. There is also Primary Yellow, which is slightly warmer and more opaque. Sennelier Yellow Deep is almost identical to Sennelier Yellow. I find the professional version has more depth, and it also has a far better light fastness rating of excellent versus the student grade being not rated at all. Red Orange doesn't have an identical dupe between either of the oranges in this palette, but it is more similar to Orange than Sennelier Orange. Neither of the student grade versions are rated, nor are they as transparent as the professional paint Red Orange. Sennelier Red is very close to Primary Red, which has the exact same transparency and light fastness ratings. I would actually bet they are likely both created with the Pyrrole Red pigment, but it is fairly hard to tell. I guess I should have probably mentioned, but the Le Petit paints don't have any pigment information that I have ever been able to find. If you happen to know anything about the pigments used in making this palette, feel free to let me know down below in the comments. So I actually have another 7 Sennelier paints that I need to swatch, but I'm going to do that in the next video, so please subscribe if you don't want to miss out on that. If you have any questions about anything I've talked about, if you're new to watercolor and you don't understand some of the terms or anything like that, please let me know down below in the comments. I love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!